seems that I've been graced and flattered to have some kid call me a whore because of my video, The Mormons Are Jackoffs. And I made a couple of statements in that video about the way the money was handled in Mormonism and things like that. And I've had a lot of good and bad Mormons write me on this. Some of them actually drew my attention to some things on Mormon practice of their money and stuff like that, and I commend them for that. But I want to point out something here. I've come across something, I actually came across it years ago, and I just want to go through it right quick and make a couple of subtle little points. Most of you have probably heard of the famous Hoffman Salamander letter. The authenticity of it, the letter was deemed authentic by experienced document examiners, testimony to Hoffman's superior forgery techniques. This thing was offered to Don Schmidt of the LDS Church Historical Department on January 3rd, 1984 by one Lynn Jacobs, who wanted to trade it for a $10 Mormon gold piece. Now, Jacobs told Smith he got the letter from a collector in the East and referred by Mark Hoffman. Now, the offer was rejected. Jacobs suggested that Brent Ashworth might have an interest, and although Hoffman had already showed the transcript of it to him and declared it to be a fake, the contents of the letter seemed too similar to Howell's Mormonism Unveiled or whatever. But the bottom line was the deal with the Mormon Church was never reached. Hoffman eventually sold the letter to one Stephen F. Christensen on January the 6th, 1984 for $40,000. And Mr. Christian went to authenticate, and he wanted to donate it to the LDS Church, and a year later, the prophet Hinckley, doubts about it were still clear, but in the church news, it said no one in the course can be certain about Martin Harris, whether he wrote the document. However, at this point, we accept the judgment of the examiner since there's no indication it's a forgery. Now, let me stop the narrative at this point and explain to you what we're doing now. We got this man called Hinckley, who's supposed to be a prophet of God, ordained, the lineage from Joseph Smith. And this letter, by the way, let me explain to you what this letter basically says, is that Joseph Smith admitted, this I've got right down here, he actually admitted that he had come upon a lot of his ingredients for some of his beliefs in Books of Mormon, stuff like that, by conversing with a salamander in the bottom of a hole. Apparently the prophet didn't find this unusual, that Joseph had smoked to a salamander. That was a Freudian slip, because the only people I know that speak to salamanders is like Jackie, and she smokes. But anyway, it didn't bother him at all. He readily accepted that. He was just wondering if the letter was a fake. So what we got here is a man that portrays himself to be a prophet of God, who is following the dictates of a man that came before him, who got his religious authority from his conversations with Bimbo, the talking wonder lizard. And, okay, now, it's going down through here. At any rate, they finally said, it wasn't real, and Hoffman in turn blew some people up, stuff like that. And the church itself encouraged debate on the letter, but let's see if I can find this and see, for this is being duped, lasting effects. The LDS Church publicly released the contents of the Salamander letter in April of 1985. About the same time, the church also released a letter to its high school seminary program suggesting the seminary teachers not encourage debate about the Salamander letter, I just don't imagine, but that they should tactfully answer genuine questions on the subject. Now, that means we got a bunch of kids in high school, they're growing up in the LDS faith, and they're trying to ask their teachers, teacher, is it true that Joseph Smith talked with a salamander? Well, folks, this is funny. This is just out and out funny. We have an entire group of people here who, and like I said, Mr. Hinckley, it didn't seem to bother him that his prophet talked to lizards. I think Eve talked to a snake, I believe it was. That didn't bother him. And I'll give the church credit. It didn't personally pay for the salamander letter, but there was $40,000 changed hands here. So when this little guy calls me a whore or makes fun of me or whatever like that, he needs to read this article with a salamander letter, and I got this on Wikipedia. Just type in salamander letter. You can read it for yourself, and it's all right there. I invite your comments. I'm not going to laugh out loud. I don't think the Pope ever talked to a lizard. I don't believe Muhammad never talked to a lizard either. I don't think he ever talked to a lizard. I know Jesus had talked to lizards. But apparently Joseph Smith, he might not talk to the lizard, but Mr. Hinckley didn't have any problem at all believing he talked to a lizard. So, over and out.